Hello and welcome to NPC, Next Portable Console. I'm Federico Ticci and I'm joined on this very special and fun episode today by Mr. Brendon Bigley. Hello, Brendon.
Hello, I'm wearing a very scratchy jacket.
Scratchy jacket?
It's a scratchy jacket.
Interesting.
Yeah.
We're
Keeps you awake.
It does. Definitely keeps me awake, and it's going to keep me overheated the whole time.
Okay, good. We're also joined by John Voorhees. Hello, John.
Hi. I have a very comfortable hoodie and flannel shirt. They're both very soft and keeping me very warm, so I may fall asleep during the show. But I'm glad that this is a particularly fun one, Federico, since our show is not known for fun.
Well, it is known for fun.
I mean, come on, what are you talking about?
What if I told you that it could be even more fun? In fact,
funner.
Double the fun.
Double the pleasure, double the fun.
2 NPC, 2 Furious, something like that.
Yes.
We have...
That should have been the name.
That should have been the name all along, actually. It's a very important episode because we have a very important announcement to share today. In fact, a couple. First, we've been doing this show together for the past few months. We've had the time of our lives. It's been awesome to work with Brendon and John. We've heard from our listeners. We're taking the show weekly. You're gonna see a new episode of NPC every week instead of every 2 weeks. So each Tuesday, or if I think we're gonna be able to stick to the schedule. Obviously, if anything happens, that there's a major announcement that we need to cover, or a Nintendo Direct, I'm sure we'll tell our listeners beforehand. But usually speaking, you will see a new episode of NPC every single week, starting with this episode. So you don't have to wait 14 days. That's a long time. You're just going to wait 7 days.
A fortnight.
It's like a year in internet time.
Yeah, I mean, 2 weeks. Jeez. There's a second announcement. We're launching a Patreon. $5 a month gives you, it's not just to support us. I mean, if you want to support us, that's great. Thank you. But we're also giving you something in return, and that's NPC XL. Brendon, what is NPC XL?
NPC XL is going to be a deep dive into any kind of specific topic that is related to handhelds. So our very first one that we're launching with is going to be a deep dive into the PSP, the hardware of the PSP in particular. I'm wearing a shirt. I'm surrounded by PSPs.
Oh my God, I didn't see the shirt.
Oh, he showed it off before. You totally missed it.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I'm ready, man. I've been living in PSP world for a while, and I'm so excited to talk about the hardware specifically. Obviously, for those of you coming from into the Aether, we're talking about PSP software a lot, but there's so much to talk about with how incredible this hardware is, and that's going to be our very first deep dive on NPC XL.
Yeah, Brendon's been soaking in the PSP, you could say. I mean, we all three of us have been diving into the hardware, and we've got a lot to talk about today about the history as well as our personal experiences with it, both historical and more recently.
Yeah. So excited about that.
And the Patreon, just like the regular show, is going to be every single week. So every single week, if you don't want to subscribe on Patreon, that's fine. You will still get more NPC every single week, both in audio as a regular podcast and with video. If you're watching this now, you're going to get video every single week. The same is true with NPC XL. $5 a month, you're going to get a deeper dive into a specific topic or specific handheld every single week in both audio and video. So we're keeping things consistent every single week. You can either follow the regular show or you can follow NPC XL. We would love you to join us on Patreon and to follow all the kinds of NPC that we do. This is going to be fun. And I think we have a long list of ideas for topics that we want to cover, but we're obviously starting with the best.
Yes.
We are.
Where can people follow us, Federico? Where's the new place that people can follow us?
I am fairly sure that the URL is patreon.com/nextportableconsole. Did I do it right? Please tell me I did it right.
I believe so. I was alluding to the fact that we have a new YouTube channel.
Yes,
as well.
so that's what I thought it was.
Yes,
that's what I thought too.
We're on a new YouTube channel.
We have so many announcements today.
We have a lot of announcements today. Yeah, so we spun out from the Mac Stories YouTube channel, and we started a new YouTube channel that is just for NPC.
Yes.
So for those of you out there who want to just be consuming handheld content every single week, you can follow us here on YouTube. And like Federico said, if you want to back us on Patreon, that's lovely. If you don't, you're still a winner. Baby, that scratch off still got you 2x the NPC. So excited. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel, share it with some people, leave comments, let us know what you think, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, the entire back catalog is there, not just these new episodes, but the entire back catalog. So check it out.
Yeah.
And I think a cap on this also is that NPC is also joining TWG, which is the kind of loose podcast network and Discord server that Into the Aether and Can't Let It Go and Video Game Podtimism and Girl Mode and a bunch of great shows are a part of. Frog of the Week, .zip. It's going to join TWG, and that is a free to join Discord server. So if you want to join and talk about handhelds in there as well, there will be an NPC channel for talking about handhelds and stuff like that. Oh, Wavelengths also my thing. It's also on TWG.
It is.
Forgot to shout out. So join that. We'll have a link to that as well in the description.
Oh, lovely. This is great. That said, thank you all for following us. We have a regular show to do. I believe we have some follow-up, John, first.
We do. We got a message on Blue Sky from Sawyer, a listener, who wanted to know what we thought the retro console is that has the quietest input. And I was going to answer this on Blue Sky. Then I thought, well, I really need to consult Federico, because Federico is notorious for his pursuit of quiet handhelds for playing in bed at night. And while I care about it, I don't care about it or understand the quietest ones quite as well as Federico, who's been on this quest for years now.
Mr. Noiseless portable console over here.
Yes.
Retro console? So like actual proper original retro console?
Yes, because this person was looking at the brick and had heard from reviews that it was kind of clicky and
so like an emulator console.
An emulator handheld.
Yes.
Because
with
like
buttons.
of the original old handhelds, I gotta say the PSP. The PSP is super quiet.
Yeah, that's true.
And
that's good. It's by Sony.
By Sony, the PSP by Sony, like it's super quiet. Sony has never cheaped out on components for the plastic membrane under the buttons. I've been playing PSP at night without bothering anybody. It's super quiet.
But those UMD discs, man, they're a little bit noisy.
Obviously you gotta have a modded PSP. You don't want
Turn it off.
You don't want to load a game off the UMD because it's gonna wake everybody up. But if we're talking about modern retro consoles, I would say I've had a pretty good time with the RG Cube. I think the RG Cube had a pretty good balance of the clickiness and the clunkiness of the buttons. I didn't find personally the brick that disturbing. I mean, I
didn't either, really. That's why I was surprised by this comment.
I found the brick pretty good, honestly, in my case.
Yeah. It's a little clicky, but it's nothing too wild. I
not,
think the clickiest it gets are the shoulder buttons.
Yeah.
Really.
If we consider the absolute worst to be the N Odin 2 portal, which is like when you click the buttons on the portal, it's like, okay, we're just playing a concert here. But I think
and the Anbernick SP is pretty clicky too. I mean that maybe in the
brutal.
That's did they fix that when they updated the hardware, Brendon? You got some over the holidays. Did they make that any better with that one?
It's better than it was. I wouldn't call it quiet by any stretch of the imagination.
Okay.
And even opening my own up and starting to throw some like tape on the inside, it didn't really help that much. I will say the flip actually is like, except for this part, the opening of the flip, the buttons themselves are silent. Like totally silent.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, I would say the flip, I agree. The flip, except with the opening, the flip sounds pretty good. The RG Cube was pretty good. The brick is pretty good in my opinion. The Anodin portal is absolute evil when it comes to buttons. Yeah, these will be my recommendations. And obviously, like, the king, the absolute indisputed king, but that's a controller, is the DualSense controller. So if you can say, I don't know, stream your game on an iPad or on a tablet and pair it with a DualSense controller.
Get a gaming pillow and use your DualSense.
Get a gaming like the DualSense is the king, like the king of silence. Everything else is pretty good. Like these things that we've mentioned are pretty good. Speaking of flipping things, we gotta talk about my new obsession. I think this is gonna be like, based on the specs that we have seen, I think these already like shot up the list of my possible handhelds of the year. If the company doesn't botch the launch of this, we have more details on the Retroid Pocket Flip 2.
I will say before we even get into it, I have friends and coworkers who will like message me and text me specifically about handhelds when they kind of like break containment, like outside of people like us who are like so in the weeds about it.
Right.
And I have received many messages about the Retroid Pocket Flip 2. Like
Interesting.
people are excited about this. It is like making its way outside of the enthusiast market and into like normal people who just like video games market, which I think is very interesting. Before it's even launched too.
Interesting. So we have the specs and the colors. Obviously, these are still not final. We have 4 color options, and we've talked about this before. This is a follow-up to the Retroid Pocket Flip. It's not a 2-screen handheld. You still have the bottom part of the handheld. It's just a flat surface with 2 analog sticks and front-facing buttons and a directional pad. And obviously the display is above and it closes in a clamshell style. This is the easiest way to think about this is it's going to be available in 2 versions. There's going to be a fancier version with the Snapdragon 865 chip and a lower end version with the Dimensity 1100.
Yep.
So there's going to be 2 pricing tiers and 2 different performance levels, obviously. The Snapdragon, of course, is the one that interested me because it's the same chip and the same specs, really, as the Retroid Pocket 5. So the theory...
And the Dimensity one is the same as the Retroid Pocket 4 Pro.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where that one's coming from. It's just it's like a generation behind, essentially.
Yeah, they probably just had a bunch of chips left over.
That's what I would think, yeah.
Yeah, when they killed the 4 Pro, yeah. So
Probably.
just throwing them in here.
Yeah. I am so incredibly excited because the idea, I think I mentioned this last time, the idea of a Retroid Pocket 5 in a clamshell form factor with OLED, they confirmed this is going to be an...
Yeah, OLED no matter what, too. No matter what chip you get, you're getting an OLED screen, which is amazing.
5.5 1080p AMOLED display in a clamshell form factor with a Snapdragon 865, like that guarantees, pretty good performance with GameCube and PlayStation 2, even if you upscale to 2x. And active cooling. This thing is going to have active cooling in it, which is surprising. But I truly cannot wait to have a release date on this.
It's got an intake on the bottom to pull the air in and vents out the top, and it's got Bluetooth 5.1, Android 13, and a 5,000 milliamp hour battery. So it's very much like the Retroid Pocket 5. It's essentially that, but in a foldable form factor, which I'm incredibly excited about. I mean, that's kind of the dream. OLED in a flip device, perfect for me.
I know. Yeah, I think this thing is going to go wild. I also love the color options. They have like kind of their Super Nintendo version with like the purple buttons and the gray body, and then they have a GameCube one that has the yellow right thumbstick to kind of mirror the C stick. There's like an all black one, and then they have this one that they're calling Ice Blue. That's like a transparent kind of teal. I would say.
It's more like teal or a green blue type thing.
Yeah, I think that one probably looks the best, but also is the one that I am the least interested in picking up, given the like see-through watermelon Retroid Pocket Flip 1 was the one that had the most hinge issues because of the brittleness of the transparent plastic. So I'm going to avoid that one. I'm probably just get it in black, realistically, because I had the Retroid Pocket Flip 1 in purple, and I loved it. Don't get me wrong, but I feel like this time around I should switch it up a little bit. But yeah, this is like dream device. And as I've mentioned in the previous episode, but it kind of just solves all the problems I had with the first Flip as well. And knowing what's inside is just the Retroid Pocket 5 internals is like, there's really nothing else I could ask for. Like, I don't know what else they would need to announce for me to want to get this. I think the only thing that's going to be we'll see what the price is, I guess, is where I'm heading here. Like, I think the price, if it is wild, maybe I don't need it. But if it's reasonable, if it's close to the Retroid Pocket 5, then, I'll pick one up.
Do you think that they can really support a large premium if it's essentially the same as the Retroid Pocket 5? I mean, I expect there will be some premium just because of the form factor, but I feel like they can't go too high without getting people really upset.
Yeah. I think it'll raise a lot of questions as to, like, if you are a person interested in buying a handheld that is this powerful, why would you buy the Flip versus the 5 if the Flip ends up being like $100 more expensive, for example?
Right.
Like if it is that much more expensive.
I could see it being 50, something like that.
Yeah. I think even then people will still be like, I'll just buy the 5 then. And for them, they'll have a great time with the 5 because, as you both have mentioned, the 5 is a great device. but I think I would pay the premium for the Flip, definitely.
Yeah, it just really is how much do you value the pocketability, the foldability of this thing just thrown in a bag. And to me, that's worth paying extra for.
I agree.
Yeah, I agree. So stay tuned. And now that we're doing the show weekly, maybe we'll be able to follow up next week. Isn't that nice that we can do this every 7 days? We have, in more somber news, the reviews of the Legion Go S are out. And it sounds pretty disappointing, unfortunately.
Yeah. So universally disappointing.
Universally disappointing everybody who was able to test it. So this is the Windows version. There's going to be a native SteamOS version at some point in a couple of months. But the problem isn't, well, obviously Windows is a whole problem. We're going to talk about this in a minute. But the performance itself, the chip itself, the Z2 Go, sounds very underwhelming. So we're looking at far, far worse performance than the Z1 Extreme. That much we knew, judging from the benchmarks and just the nature of the chip. The problem is that the Z2 Go doesn't even beat in terms of power and power efficiency the Steam Deck from 3 years ago.
3 years old. Yeah,
it's wild.
Which is
I can't
wild.
believe it.
That was, to me, like I was reading through the Verge review. The fact that all things being equal, the Z2 Go doesn't beat a chip from 3 years ago. It really goes on to show some of the confusion of the Z2 chip lineup, which we talked about after CES, but also just the quality work that Valve did 3 years ago with the, what's it called, Sephiroth? Is that the name of the Steam Deck architecture? Like the work that they've done to sort of balance performance with the resolution of the display and the battery life and the TDP, just excellent all around. And probably the reason why Valve keeps saying, no, we're not gonna do a Steam Deck 2 until there's a considerable performance leap that is going to make it worthy for people to spend another $500, which makes more sense by, every time we see these new Windows handhelds, that statement makes a little more sense to me.
Yeah, it kind of adds insult to injury, the fact that this has only a 55 watt hour battery, because it's not as efficient. And now you've got a battery that's, it's a good bit smaller than something like an Ally X.
Yeah. And I think, at least based on what John and I saw at CES, the Z2 Extreme is like the one to keep your eye on, probably, if you really want the next wave of power. And even then, I don't know if that power is going to be enough to really justify a second Steam Deck. Like, I think we're really going to have to wait for the Z3 at the earliest to start to see any kind of like marked improvement at a power efficiency and price efficiency perspective.
Yeah, I feel like we're in a little bit of a chicken and egg situation with these handhelds, because it's still a relatively new and small market. And I think that the incentives for AMD and other chip manufacturers to make the next generation chip maybe aren't there quite yet. I mean, it's probably a nice side business for them, but it's obviously not something that is front and center when they're planning their core chipsets for laptops and desktops and that sort of thing.
Yeah. Right now, looking ahead at the handhelds in 2025 that we know about so far, I think obviously besides the Flip 2, I'm putting a lot of hopes into the Legion Go 2, so the proper Legion Go 2 with the Z2 Extreme and the OLED and the slightly lower resolution, which we talked about, because that device on paper, the Legion Go 2 with native SteamOS flashed onto it, assuming that Valve releases an image of SteamOS for the Legion Go 2, that sounds like the dream to me.
Could be.
For my kind of taste in handhelds. I know that I'm still like, actually, I got a couple of updates for you guys that I feel like I should share.
Surprises, here they come.
I should share on the show. I look at this year for me as the year of experimentation, but also consolidation. Like these two things are sort of happening simultaneously. John knows more. I'll tell you off the air, Brendon, because I like to keep my surprises for the audience.
Sure.
But as part of that consolidation, I just this past week, I sold my Z13 acronym. So remember the fancy...
RIP.
Yeah.
RIP, boy.
And you guys are going to be surprised and sad, but rest in peace. I mean, not rest in peace. It's going to a new owner. It was beautiful and it was worth it. I sold my eGPU.
Oh,
Of course,
wow.
of course, yeah.
And
Wow.
That's,
you know the
and
best,
the king cable with it.
and the king cable with it. And you know
Yeah, okay.
and you know the best part? I
Yeah.
basically didn't lose any money.
Wow.
These
Great.
GPUs, they never lose value. It's incredible.
Yeah.
So
that's amazing.
it's going to a new owner somewhere in Tuscany. So yeah.
Hmm.
And the reason is I realized, my gaming time is already quite limited. And I just prefer to have something that I can pick up, press play, and just go,
Mhm.
Right.
And
There's
so-
no prep.
And so whether it's streaming from my PS5 or streaming from the cloud or the Steam Deck or the PSP, I just want to be able to press a button and start playing. And so
Yeah.
all that overhead that was involved, while it was beautiful and it was very informative and it truly, I think it was fun to put together and it taught me a lot, but it was just too much when I had 30 minutes to play something before I go to sleep.
Yeah.
The thing is, Federico, I have a question for you about the acronym, because the acronym was a gaming fashion statement. Listeners who have followed Mac Stories Unwind will know that that tablet has a neck strap that you can hold down in front of you like a tray table, and it's really marketed as a fashion accessory. What are you going to do to be a fashionable gamer going forward, Federico?
I am gonna move to Brooklyn because I guess that's where all the cool people are, such as
You're going to move in with Brendon? Is that what you're saying? He doesn't know this.
I'm gonna be Brandon's. I'm gonna be Brandon's neighbor. Brandon's
Okay.
Italian neighbor.
Great.
And I'm just gonna be in Brooklyn, with my PSP and my sunglasses on, and I'll just be a cool guy playing video games. Basically, I'm gonna be the Italian Brandon. That is my plan.
All right. That's a start. That's a
Sounds
start.
good. See you soon, buddy.
Yeah, be right there. That being said, so yes, back on track. I wanted to talk about actually, I gotta ask our resident AYANEO expert, Mr. John Voorhees. What is
Yes.
AYANEO? What is AYANEO up to these days?
What are they up to, man?
So
I
what are they doing? Because I see 2 links in our document.
Yeah.
What are they doing?
I'm not sure they know what they're doing. They
Okay.
have, so the Pocket Micro is the small handheld that they did that I got.
Which you have. Okay.
Yeah, I have it. And it's fantastic. It's super premium. It's overpowered essentially for what it is, I think, and too expensive, like most AYANEO products. But it is nice. And they are teasing now a new one.
I'm just looking at the marketing image, and I'm sorry, but they have such a way to phrase these things.
Oh, I know they do.
The classic and purity you wanted.
Yes. I think what they're doing is they're getting rid of the thumbstick is what they're doing.
Wait, what?
I think so. I think from the marketing materials, that was what people were guessing from it, because they just show the face buttons and the D-pad.
Yeah, it looks like D-pad, face button, shoulder buttons, and that's it.
Right. And so the assumption is that it's going to be a lower powered version of the existing device, hopefully for less money, because I think that was the big criticism of the Pocket Micro, was that it wasn't great for those higher end games. Just the form factor wasn't great for those higher end games. So you were paying a lot of extra money, and most people were getting it to play like Game Boy Advance, and it was just not necessary to have that kind of horsepower to play GBA games.
Yeah.
So that's coming, and they haven't said anything more than that. It's just that outline image that was online. So there's that. And then we have this news about the Flip, which I had kind of forgotten about the Flip entirely. I mean, the Flip was canceled and then resurrected like days later.
Such a weird way to do this.
No, and not
announcement.
just that, but they also announced that they're making a new one.
Yeah. So they posted, I guess, on Indiegogo in a update to I think to the Flip, that they were discontinuing it, and this was before everybody who pre-ordered it, had even received all their Flips. And then later, after inquiries from Overkill, WTF, and others, they said, "Oh no, we're going to continue doing the Flip." They deleted the post, and then they also said, "We're going to be making new things in this line." So what exactly is going on is beyond me. But they seem to have had second thoughts after posting originally that they were getting rid of the Flip.
Okay.
AYANEO makes it very hard to get excited about their products, is how I'm starting to feel about them the more we do this show specifically. Like, the more tapped into the news about them I get, the more I'm like, I can't in good faith recommend this company to people. It's too expensive. And they pull stuff like this, and that's just like, it makes my skin crawl. I don't like it. I'm impressed by what they build, and everyone who gets their products, like you, John, seems to be very happy with them from from a premium build perspective, and from a performance perspective. But it's stuff like this that just makes me think, like, they ship their stuff late, they're canceling stuff without shipping it to people, and then they're announcing a replacement immediately. I don't know, it just feels weird.
They're just throwing a lot of stuff at the wall, and at some point that becomes a problem, because it's hard to trust that these devices are going to be around long term and they'll be supported. I mean, there's so many different form factors, so many different attempts to do this, that, and the other thing, that it is a little hard to trust the company at this point.
Yeah, that's too bad. They really do make nice hardware.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I don't know what. I guess the answer, if you needed to find an answer, is like, build one handheld that you're very confident in and support it long term, and like build that goodwill back. Right? Is like, build one great, like, Steam Deck competitor, for example, with their premium build quality.
But they're all over the place with form factors and operating systems, and
it's like they're trying to be Anbernic, but they can't keep it up. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Right, because they're trying to do it at such a premium level that it's even harder to do than Anbernic. I mean, at least they're throwing the same chipsets and everything into every device, essentially.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's weird. It's bizarre.
It's really weird.
Very strange.
Hey, I got better news for you guys.
Okay.
The SN operator is around the corner. I know I've said this before, but these are our friends at Epilogue are back on Reddit, and they're talking about the Super Nintendo operator, the GB operator that we all have, plays Game Boy, Game Boy Advance, Game Boy Color games, connects to your computer, lets you save the files, lets you play them there, all that kind of stuff. The SN operator is around the corner in terms of pre-orders, they say, and they're actually working on something called the 64 operator for Nintendo 64 games. So that is pretty exciting news, I think. I keep an eye on this Reddit thread. It's a pretty quiet Reddit thread, but every now and then they pop up and they talk about what's happening. They're almost finished doing a Game Boy camera integration for the original GB operator 2, which I think was promised at the launch, which now I think was 4 years ago, but it's not been easy to do that from a technical standpoint. But soon you'll be able to plug in a Game Boy camera into your GB operator and use it as your webcam, which is something Federico and I did one time.
Yeah, we did that.
Not with an operator, but with other means.
I did an article at some point a couple of years ago about.
Yeah, you did.
We did a FaceTime call with a Game Boy camera. And I actually did it it was a whole thing. We can put a link in the show notes. I put a Game Boy camera in an analog pocket.
Yep.
And then I ran the HDMI out from the analog pocket dock into a video capture card. The video capture card was plugged into my iPad Pro. And when you plug a capture card into an iPad Pro that way, it's sort of it can be used as a webcam. And so I opened FaceTime, and FaceTime, instead of taking the image from the selfie camera of the iPad, was taking the video feed of the Game Boy camera. And so I did a FaceTime call with John looking as a Game Boy camera character.
Yeah, we did it on both ends. We were on our Game Boy cameras.
It was awesome.
Why are we
fun.
not doing every episode like that?
I know, right?
Why is this show?
I mean, technically we can do it. It's just going to be It's going to be very green and gray, but we could do it.
I think it's on brand. I mean, we could change the color scheme of the show. Like, it's just a Photoshop file. We can make it happen.
Yeah, we're gonna look like a bunch of blocky characters, but
I like it. That's my ideal aesthetic for everything, actually.
Okay, cool. We can do it.
That's why I didn't watch the Oscars. None of the movies.
Tune in next week.
Yeah. Tune in next week.
We're gonna look like the Game Boy camera. I wanted to point our listeners to an interesting project called Winhanced. So this is a relatively newcomer on the scene. I think it's actually being developed by a very small group of people. It's a project that sort of aims to give you a better Windows experience on your handheld by essentially putting a simplified sort of Steam Deck-like front-end UI on top of Windows. So you're still going to be using Windows. This is more like what's the name of that launcher that a bunch of people use? Playknight? Have you guys ever used Play? Yeah.
I use Playknight on my PC actually. Like
nice.
On PC.
Nice. So this is a new project along those lines. It scans your computer for all the games that you have installed from a bunch of different stores, not just Steam, like Steam and Xbox, Epic Games, like whatever you're using. And then gives you this UI that is very reminiscent of Steam. You have these horizontal tabs that you can navigate. It's very new. They have a Discord server. I saw a bunch of people install it and use it and, saying that it's nice. So I figured, they're in early access right now. So, people should check it out.
Yeah. It launched like literally this week in early access.
Oh, wow.
The week of this recording. So, it's very new, but I'm definitely interested in it. I'm a little bit like, I feel like I have to wait a while before I check it out. I don't feel super confident that I could just like jump into it right now, especially considering how solid Bazite has been on the Ally X for me. But I will definitely be keeping very close tabs on this because the fact that it like incorporates Game Pass, cloud streaming as well, like all that stuff just feels great. And honestly, just from the screenshots and from the videos I've seen, like it looks so much like exactly what Microsoft should have been doing the whole time. Like they just figured it out, basically.
Yeah, it kind of goes back to our conversation about the Legion Go S, is that, I think part of the problem here is that those handhelds aren't going to take off until Microsoft does something. They need to modify Windows for handhelds, or they have to do an Xbox OS, something that is both cheaper to license and more designed for handhelds before these things are going to really take off with that platform on them.
Yeah. Agreed. But Winhanced, very cool project. Thank you for shouting this out, Federico. It looks awesome.
Of course. We have a bunch of other mini topics to cover on today's show. The first one is something who discovered this? Brendon? John?
Brendon sent it to us. Yeah.
Okay, Brendon, what is this thing?
It's an app for iOS that's called PicoChat. It's an iMessage app specifically. So when you're in iMessage, you can bring up the iMessage apps thing, which I think a lot of people forget exists, but you can jump in there and you can open up PicoChat, and it creates in your chat basically PictoChat from the Nintendo DS. It is just PictoChat, but in iMessage. And what's fun is you could like draw and you can type and do stamps and all that kind of stuff like you could in PictoChat on the Nintendo DS. But when you hit send, it just sends it as an image, which is fun. It's very cute. I've actually seen in the past, I would say probably like 7 or 8 years ago now, there were weirdly a flood of actual PictoChat remakes in the iOS store that eventually got removed. But I had one that a bunch of my friends and I downloaded and we used for like a couple months just for fun instead of like texting each other. And I'm glad to have this back. So I just sent this to all those people immediately as soon as I heard about it. But it's very cute. I will say it's very difficult to like draw on it and stuff using your big finger on a small PictoChat screen versus something like a stylus. It kind of makes me... It was the first time ever I joined maybe the iPhone should allow use of the Apple Pencil crowd. Yeah.
I've
never been on that team before, and I was like, I'll do it just for PicoChat, actually.
Yeah. The keyboard is super, super tiny.
Yeah, I have so many distinct memories of using PictoChat with my best friend from high school for the first time. And specifically... I have this clear, vivid memory of using PictoChat on our Nintendo DS's for the very first time and realizing, oh my God, this is incredible that we can communicate with drawings and little text messages from a short distance, like in different rooms. We would take the Nintendo DS to school and chat in secret using PictoChat during like chemistry class or something.
Dude. Almost the exact same story on my end. I had a friend who had physics the same time I had physics, but we were across the hall from one another. And I sat in the back right corner of the classroom, and she sat in the back left corner of the classroom. So we were like close, just separated by like hallway wall. And we were using PictoChat all the time. Like I was hiding the DS under like the table and just like using PictoChat all the time. We were always playing Diddy Kong Racing DS and using PictoChat.
Yeah, that was
funny.
That was the thing, and it was like, and I have this specific memory because it was very similar to the very first time we realized that we could use our Nokia phones. So we're talking 2003, 2004. the very first time we exchanged a photo using Bluetooth, we realized, oh my God, this is incredible. We don't have to pay for MMS. Remember that used to be a thing?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
The very first time I tried Bluetooth to send a picture for free in my classroom to a friend of mine using Bluetooth, we were like, this is a game changer. And so like it was right around the time that basically like short, like near field wireless communication, it was taking off. And so like the Bluetooth on the Nokia phones and PictoChat on the Nintendo DS were very close to each other. And yeah, it was really a magical time.
Yeah.
I don't know if I told this story before. In high school, I did pretty well in high school, but I liked the humanities more than scientific studies. And I consistently, especially in the final years of high school, failed physics, chemistry, math, or like all the non-literature adjacent things. For physics, I tried for a while. I had this trick where I convinced my professor that I perform better during tests if I could listen to music. And she agreed to let me use. Hold on. She agreed to let me use my MP3 player. I had an Acer MP3 player. Didn't have an iPod because I couldn't afford an iPod. So I had an Acer MP3 player, and I told her, like, can I just listen to music while I try and concentrate on this test? And she's like, sure, BTG, go for it. Except I was not listening to music during the test. At home, the MP3 player had a microphone and an audio recording feature. At home, I had pre-recorded myself reading excerpts of the physics book.
Wow. Look at you, a life hacker from an early age.
So funny. That's so funny.
I love it.
And for a couple of tests, I performed strangely well. She was like, Vitici, you studied this time. I was like, yes, I did study. I was prepared. Well, in fact, I was listening to myself reading the book at home. And I was actually pretending that I was going like
Sure
this.
you were. Oh, yeah. You're jamming. Jamming to yourself, reading physics books.
Yeah, anyway.
That's great. This app I really like because I put it side by side with my DS Lite, and it's a pixel for pixel reproduction almost exactly. It's so close, and that just helps bring back the nostalgia. That pecking away at that tiny keyboard is impossible practically, but it's a neat little app. It's a lot of fun. I mean, I had a good time with it, and I'll probably use it now and then, mostly with you guys. I mean, there are only so many people who appreciate that anymore, I think.
All communication about NPC from this point forward must happen in
JPEGs, PictoChat, JPEGs.
I do wish that I could open it up in other apps that weren't iMessage. Like I opened up Discord and I was like, oh man, I would love to be able to send messages like this in Discord. So what I was doing instead was I was typing them and sending them to myself and then copying the image and then pasting it in Discord, which is a little bit too much of a thing. So
yeah, they should do a PicoChat custom keyboard. So in that way you could use it everywhere.
Yeah.
John, you have a story to tell on the show today.
So I just thought I'd share that right now, my youngest son, he just finished up a study abroad in New Zealand, and he decided he was going to spend a couple of weeks in Japan. And he's been in Tokyo, and at the moment he's in Kyoto. And last night, as I was sleeping, he was at the Nintendo Museum. And I got probably 100 text messages this morning when I woke up from him because he was very excited about the Nintendo Museum. Because he could only share so much because they don't let you take photographs inside the Nintendo Museum apparently, except for in a very limited area, which is an area that shows like it has all the consoles and all the controllers kind of exploded. They've been taken apart so you can see the guts of them. But that's like a timeline you can walk through and see kind of the different consoles through the eras. But he was inside and saw, a bunch of prototypes, a bunch of special editions, like all a Pikachu N64 and a bunch of other cool stuff. And then the museum gift shop is kind of a big deal too. And when he was there, I guess, they have they don't let you buy more than one of a whole bunch of the stuff that's in there. And a lot of the things were sold out, but he picked up a bunch of stuff for me, a bunch of merch that I'll show off at a later date. But he enjoyed that a lot. He went to the Nintendo store in Tokyo too. And as well as I basically, thanks with some recommendations from Brendon, he hit some retro handheld stores too, and bought me a couple of games. Got a couple of old things there. I didn't buy no handhelds. The prices actually were not particularly good compared. They were okay, but they weren't really much better than you could get online through eBay or some other means. But
you got to do some digging to get some good deals.
Yeah, you really do. And he's has pretty limited time there and very limited luggage space. But yeah, I got some. He's going to be home next weekend. So maybe by the next time we record, I'll have some things to show off.
Okay.
That's great. Right.
This is
I've been ordering a lot of used games from Japan recently as I'm trying to learn Japanese. And it's been fun to see what games you can get a great deal on. Like I got Dragon Quest XI on the Switch, but the Japanese version. And they definitely printed like a billion of those, and you can get it for like $15, $20. Like it is so easy to get your hands on one, which is very nice. But I was thinking about this recently. So I'm getting married soon, and then going on a honeymoon for a couple months to Japan, and it occurred to me that depending on what they announce in the Nintendo Direct next month, I may be in Japan when the Switch 2 comes out.
Oh my gosh!
Oh my god!
Which would be wild.
You gotta do. Well, I don't know what, but you gotta do something.
I'm gonna do something. I don't know. I mean, the answer is I'm gonna buy a Japanese Switch 2 probably. Realistically,
yeah, from the Nintendo store in Tokyo or something
to start. Yeah, but it just occurred to me that like if they go for like a kind of late spring, early summer release there, that'd be fun.
Very cool. Very cool.
Fun.
Well.
I have one last thing real quick to shout out before we wrap up the episode. As we all know from a couple episodes ago, I have my yellow Miyoo Flip, which, I liked, didn't love, but I like a lot. Before I ordered this, I actually pre-ordered a black Miyoo Flip like weeks beforehand. Like the second they went on sale. For some reason, they were on sale on Amazon like 2 weeks before they were on sale on AliExpress or elsewhere. And I pre-ordered one thinking that I would get one immediately. And I did not until literally last week. The black Miyoo Flip finally came in. And let me tell you something. The reports of this one feeling that much worse than the yellow and the gray one, greatly exaggerated. This feels totally fine. And not only that, but I think I like it a lot more.
Interesting.
And I actually
looks nice.
It looks really nice. Yeah, I moved my SD card over, and this is going to be the go-to for me from this point forward. I think.
I'm not sure what they were thinking with the yellow, to be honest. I got the yellow because it was the easiest one to get, but
yes,
I'm not thrilled with the yellow at all.
Yeah, I like this thing a lot actually, and I got MinUI on here with a couple like extra things. So I have DS emulation on here as well, which is nice, and having a very good time with it. I've gone back to using this, which I'm surprised by.
Where do the third-party OSs stand right now for the Flip? I mean, I think was
not great still.
Okay, that's what I thought. I was wondering if Spruce was on there or any
apparently soon there will be a build of Spruce for the Flip.
I thought I saw something about that.
What's interesting about the next edition of Spruce is that it's coming to the Flip and the Brick and the TrimUI Smart Pro, which I'm kind of surprised by. But the other ones that exist right now, you have MinUI, and then there was Rocknix, which was one that a lot of people were excited about, and apparently like didn't work and had a non-0% chance, like a worrying percentage chance of just bricking the device. So the developer pulled the build and was like, I'm not going to keep working on this anymore. So there are people like trading around the last Rocknix build for the Miyoo Flip, which seems like a coin flip that I don't want to.
It seems like a bad idea.
And I think that's it. Oh, and then there's also Gamma OS if you want to throw Android on there and get access to a bunch of other stuff. But at the moment, that's kind of it. No word on anything else that's in the works. So no word on Newly, no word on Miyoo OS. All the stuff that I think a lot of people were really excited about and hopeful for, like Onion OS, kind of been radio silent. So it seems like at the moment, either Gamma OS or MinUI are your choices until Spruce launches, at least.
Got it. Well, those are good. I mean, I'll probably do MinUI. I haven't actually gone to the trouble of doing that yet, but I was kind of hoping other ones would show up and I'd, just do this once. But at this point, I think I'll probably put MinUI on, or if it takes long enough, maybe Spruce will be out by the time I do it, and I'll give that a try.
Yeah. It's nice to know that it's actually happening. Like there's been a lot of conversation about it, or a lot of communication about it. But anyway, I just wanted to share that if you've not gotten the Miyoo Flip specifically because you heard that the plastic felt bad, the answer is that it really doesn't feel that bad. It's fine.
Good.
Good, even.
All right. Well, I think that's it. I think we did another episode, the first of a series of weekly episodes going forward.
Yes.
Yeah, we'll be seeing people in just 1 week. And of course, we're going to roll right into into NPC XL, our patron-only version of the show. So stick around, check that out. Go over to the Patreon and check that out. And we're going to start recording that shortly. Of course, you can find the three of us online all over the place. We've got Brendon. He's over at wavelengths.online. And we've got Federico Vitici and me over at macstories.net. And we're on social media. Just search for our names. Search for Brendon Bigley, Federico Vitici, John Voorhees. You'll find us there.
Find us.
Talk to you later, guys.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.